As usual, welcome everyone to HOMT 611 Event Management. This is our 5th session. So we'll be looking at food and beverage planning. I know I'm a foodie, so are there any other foodies in the house?
Doctor, we are here.
We are here.
Doctor, your direct sister is here.
This topic is very near to my heart. So, like I said, we are going to talk about food and beverage planning. And food and beverage is a very important aspect of events that sometimes people ignore and leave to the last minute. But it is a very key part of events management that I believe Ghanaian event organizers should start taking very seriously. And we'll find out why in a short moment. So, as usual, by the end of the session, there are certain learning outcomes we hope to achieve. The first one is to be able to determine food and beverage requirements for events, and then determine food and beverage requirements of attendees specifically, and then create an attendee profile, and then be able to discover the current trends in food and beverage when it comes to events management. So by the time we finish the session, these are the objectives or outcomes we hope to have achieved. So let's get right into it. Now, when we talk about food and beverage at events, it mainly focuses on the role of the caterer and the beverage provider when it comes to the events. Now, traditionally in Ghana, events, food and beverage was usually handled by the caterer. So people would usually engage a caterer, sign a contract with them, and the caterer will be responsible for providing both food and beverage traditionally. But now in more contemporary times, individuals and vendors are beginning to separate the two, where we have caterers focusing solely on the food at the event, and then we have independent vendors who are solely responsible for providing beverages for the event. Some of them call themselves mixologists, some of them call themselves bartenders, some of them call themselves beverage providers. They have so many names for themselves. However, the emphasis here is that in recent times, both functions are beginning to be separated. Yes, Ruth, you can call me after class. Okay. So like I was saying, in recent times, both functions are being separated such that we have a separate vendor responsible for catering and a separate vendor responsible for beverage. However, when you're organizing the event at a venue like a hotel, which is more organized, you will find out that the hotel is responsible for both functions, which is providing both the food and the beverage. Now, it is not only the choice of a suitable venue that determines the experience that your attendees have. In fact, food and drink provide a large chunk of the experience that your attendees have when they attend your event. And that is why it is important to me that event organizers start paying very close attention to food and beverage that is provided at their events. Because it is not enough to have a beautiful venue and a nice setup, and then the food and drink is terrible. I have been to several events where the event venue was set up awesomely, everything was beautifully arranged and designed, but the food tasted horrible. Please, has anyone had a similar experience?
Oh yes,
A lot.
Right? And that is because the food and the drink is often an afterthought, which shouldn't be the case. So an effective event professional must always put real thought into the food and beverage at the events, and effectively make sure that they monitor and evaluate them at the function. Even while the function is going on, they need to keep on monitoring the flow of food and beverage to make sure that the attendees at the event have the full experience. Now, the organization of catering and beverages varies considerably depending on the type of event and the venue that you're organizing it at. Like I said, if you are organizing it in an organized venue like a hotel, or an event center that has a lot of their own in-house services that they offer, you will find yourself sourcing your food and beverage from the same place, from one vendor who is providing both. However, if you are organizing your event at an open venue where it is just giving you the space to use and does not come with an in-house set of vendors to provide you with food and beverage and other services, you have to be able to provide your own food and beverage vendor. And in that case, you can decide whether to choose a caterer who will provide you with both, or to independently choose a vendor to provide for food, and then an independent vendor to provide the beverages. So generally, there is a choice between in-house catering as practiced, like I said, by the banqueting department of hotel-type venues who have organized in-house services that they offer. And then contracted out catering, that is practiced by other types of venues like public halls who do not have in-house services that they offer. Their main responsibility is to just provide you with the event space and make sure that it is conducive enough for you to set up for your event. So it will be up to you to look elsewhere to find vendors to be able to provide food and beverage. Now, the method provided by venues has as much to do with historical precedent in that venue as with matters of profitability, flexibility, and convenience. Why are we saying this? There are a number of venues that, for instance, if they have a full banqueting service, like the hotel type venues, will, as a matter of policy, not allow you to bring in food and drink from anywhere else. Perhaps because in the past, they allowed people to do that and it came to cause problems for the venue, sometimes affecting the reputation of the venue. So some venues, even though they have in-house services, can allow you to bring in food and drink from other places to host your event, while others, based on precedent, will not allow you to bring in any food and beverage from elsewhere to organize your event. Once you come to use their venue, you have to get everything that the venue offers along with the space. That is why we are saying that the method of food and beverage provision provided by the venue has as much to do with historical precedents as it does with matters of profitability, flexibility, and convenience. Sometimes you may even go and rent an open space where there are no attached vendors who will offer you in-house services. However, the event space owners can tell you that these are the recognized vendors that we work with. So when it comes to food, for instance, they can say we work with Food Bank, GH. And when it comes to drinks, perhaps we work with Mixologists Associated or Mixologists Anonymous. So even though they are not attached to us, we are recommending that you go and source your food and beverage from them because they know how we work and they know how we go about managing food and beverage during events at this venue. Please, I hope this makes sense.
Yes.
Good. So let's talk more in depth about contracting food and beverage in-house and out. Now, like I said, most hotels and vendors have a purchasing agent or department that procures materials needed for production for events, including food and beverage. So if you come and you rent the venue in the hotel, say their banquet hall or their conference room or their meeting room, they already have their in-house processes and services that will make sure that they can prepare the kind of food that you want and the beverages that you need can be provided for the participants at the event. And usually when you're signing the contract to get the venue, they will also present you with menu options to help you to be able to choose what items you want on your menu and then how much it will cost, which is factored into the price of the banquet hall sometimes. For some venues that I have experienced, they will make you pay for the hall at a particular price and then every other thing will be complimentary because they factor the food and beverage that you are going to consume into the price that you are paying for the hall. But for other places, you should pay for the price of the hall separately, and you also pay for food and beverage separately. Now, hotels use a system called par levels, which means that they always want to obtain an optimum amount of food and supplies in stock to make sure that they can satisfy all their in-house guests. So when they are offering you banqueting services and beverage services in addition to your renting of the venue, they always factor it into their daily operations such that they know that if the people who attend your event are not even able to consume everything that they prepare, they can be able to use the leftover to supplement their menu in the hotel. So the food will not go waste. The ingredients will never go waste because of the power levels at which they operate. So when it comes to planning for food and beverage, most of this planning is done in advance. And you are given a time frame within which you can't make any more changes. Right? So in that case, if you have to make any special orders or create a custom menu, you have to be able to give the venue enough time so that they can be able to factor into their system of power levels and then arrange accordingly to make sure that they can deliver the food and beverage that you want on the day of the event in the manner that you want it. So that is it for contracting in-house. Now, still on contracting in-house, usually the chef or vendor who prepares the food for you will prepare enough food to serve more than the guaranteed guest count. And this also happens in the case of outhouse contractors who are not part of the in-house infrastructure of the venue that you are renting. So most of the time, some of them will tell you that, okay, you said you are expecting 100 people, but we can't prepare for exactly 100 people. We give a room of plus or minus, say, 10. So instead of paying for just exactly the 100 people, you can pay for 110 people, so that in case it exceeds, we can be able to make up for the extra number of attendees that will come. Now, this number of attendees that you are promising the venue or the food and beverage vendor that you are expecting and for them to prepare for is known as a guarantee. So when we say guarantee, we are talking about the confirmation of final attendance counts for food and beverage preparation. And most of the time, they try to do an extra of 3 to 5% over the expected number of attendees, just in case there is an overflow and the number of people that you invited turn out to be more than you expected. But even if the number of people that you expected to show up did not show up or exceed the number, but rather less of them showed up, you must still pay the full amount that you guaranteed, unless the contract that you signed with the vendor says otherwise. So again, this is vendor specific, and it differs from venue to venue. It differs from food and beverage vendor to food and beverage vendor. For instance, venues like La Palm Royal Beach Hotel will give you a bill for a certain number of people. However, if you have to pay the money upfront. However, if the number of people do not all show up, after the event, they calculate and give you back the money for the people who did not show up. Now, this is not a policy that cuts across every single event venue. I don't know for that of Kempinski. I know Kempinski also has their own policies with regard to this and providing food and beverage. I know at some point in the past when Kempinski was struggling, they would give out the venue free and just ask people to pay for the food and beverage that the attendees are going to consume. So it differs from venue to venue. However, you need to, as an event professional, be cognizant of the terms of the venue. Remember, we talked about this when we were talking about site planning and the issue of contracts. You need to make sure that you negotiate your contracts very carefully and know the terms of the contract, such that if there is an amount that is guaranteed that you have to pay, you know that amount. And you know if you are entitled to any refund in the case of any no-shows. Now, when there's a no-show to an event, it is known as attrition. So when we say attrition, it refers to any changes to the final guarantee in terms of the number less than what was guaranteed showing up for the event, right? So ultimately, all these vendors will expect you to give them some guarantee of the number of people who are going to show up. And they'll give you a time frame within which you can adjust this guarantee. After that time frame, you cannot make any more changes. And most of the time, depending again on the vendor that you are dealing with, it could either be 48 hours, 72 hours. Some vendors will actually ask you to guarantee up to a whole 1 week before the date of the event. So 1 week to the event, you can't make any more changes, regardless of the different circumstances that you are facing. So these are some of the issues that we deal with when it comes to contracting food and beverage in-house and outside of the house when it comes to the kind of venue that you are using and the services that the venue offers. Now, does anyone have anything they want to ask before we look at some sample food and beverage contracts or anything they need clarification on?
Doctor.
Yes, Patricia.
Yeah, I was thinking, I mean, where the people will ask you to pay an extra, like the extra. For instance, if you are catering for 100 people, they will ask you to pay one thing.
Good.
Mostly, a lot of people don't ask their client to pay the extra.
That's true.
They will tell them, okay, you are looking at 100 people. I will make sure I add like 20 or 10 pieces, but at the end of the day, they don't.
Yeah.
Instead of them telling you to pay the extra so that they can add, they won't tell you that.
Exactly.
They try to please the customers by telling them that, oh, don't worry, since it's 100, I will definitely add something.
Exactly.
So with that one, but I think it's good to tell your clients to pay the extra so that you can deliver that.
Exactly.
But people don't do that.
That's true. So you remember in the beginning we said what? It is very important for an effective event professional to do what? Monitor and evaluate. Because if the event professional is not monitoring, that is when things like this can slip under the radar. So as an event professional, you need to make sure that you get the caterer to commit. And then make sure that if there's an extra that has to be paid, the extra is paid, and then extra provision is made for the extra number of people, just in case they show up. So thank you very much for that observation, Patricia. So it is an unethical thing that they do.
Yes.
And some of them too will even charge you for the extra, but they will not provide for the extra.
They won't provide it.
So this is where, as an event professional, you have to be very diligent in executing your work. Yes, Mercedes, please go ahead.
Please, it's not all the vendors who do that.
In terms of
what Patricia talked about.
They tell you they'll provide extra, but they don't.
Yes.
Yes, like I said, it's on a case-by-case basis.
Case-by-case basis. Okay,
exactly.
okay.
But she is talking based on her experience.
Yes, exactly. Most of them do that anyway. So
most of them do that. Some of them will tell you that, okay, you are expecting 100 people, but pay this round amount. We will factor in an extra just in case the number exceeds 100. Yeah. So Mercedes, I hope you are okay.
Yes,
okay. Man, is that what?
I've been doing it, pa.
Oh, yeah, caterer too.
Yes.
Oh,
Madam, what happens is
yeah.
Sometimes, let's say you have given them a plate. Okay, you're going to have a wedding, so a plate is 150 cedis.
Yeah.
The person is, oh, can you make it 13 cedis for me? You know, so because you also want the contract, you need to squeeze in something to balance up something. So you just say, oh, okay, then I'll take it. I'll give you 10 extra, and you don't do anything. Yes, because your own cost.
Madam, we do it, sometimes myself.
Yes, because the person is asking for reduction, which shouldn't be the case. Okay, so what you do?
The law of negotiation. You start from a very high price, so that if the person negotiates down, you know it will end. You know it will end where.
Madam, we do it too. We do it, myself. Sometimes I
hear you did that. I'll be very disappointed because I know I've taught you the right thing.
So, madam, from now we'll stop.
Especially with the small talk.
Glory be to God. Glory be to God. May He give you grace to be able
Amen.
to follow. Listen, have you seen? We have a culprit in our midst, though.
Yes, so but like they are saying, but like they are saying, sometimes it's not their fault. I've been tempted on several occasions by clients to do that. In fact, this happened, is it 2 years ago? I'm into this beverage local drinks business. And there was this particular client, he insisted that he wanted it at a particular price. And I told him that I don't do it this way, and that for me, this is how I do my business. It's either you take it or you leave it. And I gave him all the rules, I gave him all the necessary whatever. And for me, I'm expecting you to pay a particular percentage before we start the whole thing. And then after we are done, it's either you pay me full before or immediately we are done at the venue and then I collect it and all. He thought I was joking. I drove to his house and I went to give him the payments that he has given to me.
So you canceled the contract?
So I gave him the money. I was there the following day and he called and he told me that, oh, he's sorry, blah, 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 blah. Oh, he talked plenty. And then later he brought what it was and then he agreed to my terms. And to tell you the truth, if I hadn't stood my ground that function, if things went wrong, he would have blamed me for it.
Exactly.
Yes, but because I stood on my ground and everything went well. And at the end, he later called me. He later called me and he was like, hey, let's do this. I'm like, so you see, it's not like I'm being difficult, but if you deal with people severally, you know how to treat each and every one. So sometimes he should understand, he should take it from us perspective. Yes. Sometimes he needs to stand in our shoes. I would say that sometimes when you're doing some of these things, try and put yourself in the other person's shoes.
That's true.
Like if you're also getting somebody to do something for you, when you're also at the other side, you also think about the other person. So it's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
Madam, do you know our challenge, the caterers?
Yeah.
Now everybody cooks.
Exactly. So it's your
everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody is cooking.
Everybody is cooking.
Me, a caterer, everybody.
Thank you.
So it is about, like Mercedes is saying, it's about the level of professionalism and uniqueness that you bring to your craft.
Yes.
Because for me, sometimes I've never ordered anything from them before. Because when I look at the level of professionalism with which they execute their work, it's not up to my standard. So, so even if the person says that he's a caterer and a cook, certain clients have what they are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you position yourself, you will find those clients.
Yes.
Yeah. So Mercedes stood her ground and was professional. And I kid you not, the same person who gave her all that problem, he will be sitting somewhere and someone may be talking about, I need someone to come and serve beverage. Oh, I know this lady, very professional. She will handle your event to the best of her abilities. Very quality delivery. You will not have any problems. You will go and recommend her. Because of the service and the level of professionalism.
Sometimes you have to. It's difficult, but I think because to tell you the truth, the person has given you money, you are seeing money, and you have to return the money. I mean, for me, I'm like, no, I cannot let just this small thing put my, because I was now starting. Somebody will be like, hey, you are too known, Papa. But so he actually told me that I'm too known, and I said it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because it
doesn't matter
for yourself for the long term.
Exactly, because if I had done something wrong there, it would, like I said, it would just destroy something that you are now starting.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you realize that all the efforts you've put in will just come down. So it's a very difficult decision. I must tell you, it's not easy. But I think sometimes if we do that, I think it will help all of us.
Yeah. So what we normally do is that ours is like a team. So we have like classes of delivery. Let's gold, diamond, and silver. That kind of.
Exactly.
So if you say you can afford only this, you want something like 8 cities, fine. Then we can give you a takeaway with chicken 111. Okay, if you can afford 20 cities, okay, this, that. So if you have this kind of range there, it will not be so difficult for the customer to also make the choice. So we should also try and put these things under categories so that when they come, this is what I can afford. Okay, you can afford this. This is what we can also deliver. So please try and categorize your drink things.
Mercedes, you have categories for yours. Thank you very much, Joanne, for that suggestion. You have categories for your drinks, like for instance, silver package where you offer asana, palm wine, and maybe...
Okay, so mine is based on the number of people.
Okay.
Yes. So if you want
offer 50, all the local drinks.
No. So for example, if you want for 50 people, I can give you, if it's 3 locals, I can give you maybe 2 to 3. So you would choose 2 to 3. And if you want,
how many servings per person?
Pardon?
How many servings per person?
Okay, so it's 1 serving per person. So I'll tell you all of these things. If you want more, like we are discussing now, then the price would go up.
Okay.
Yes, but like we are all saying, at the end of the day, I also add extra because I know my people. At the end of the day, they'll say 100, and like we are all saying, they don't want to pay for more. And then if the drinks get finished, it's your brand. So I always carry extra. I always carry extra. And I think so far, so good. I mean, I always say it's not always that you would make so much. Sometimes break even, you just get something small that at least you know that you've served the clients well, and the person can even recommend you to others. So I think you start somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so let's look at sample contracts. So this is a sample contract for a catering company that offers both food and beverage. So please, can you see the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. So here we can see that the contract starts with the name and date of the person, and the contact person, if it is different from the person who is taking up the contract. Then the phone number, email, the date of the function, the type of function that it is, whether or not it is a surprise event, right? The number of guests that they are expecting, and based on their policy, you need a minimum of 40 people before you can request for a buffet. If you don't have up to 40 people attending the event, they can't offer you buffet services, right? And then they go into specific by asking you when is the start time of the event, what time do you want the food to start being served, and then what time do you want the food service to end, right? Or what time does the event end? And then they are saying that they will be around for 4 hours max. So if you want them to stay at your event for more than 4 hours, it will not happen. So you have to time it such that they can bring in the food and then finish serving it and leave within the 4-hour period. And then, just like we discussed, you have to name the specific menu package that you are choosing, and then any other additional options that you want apart from the menu package you have chosen. And then you also have to indicate whether you want wine at the tables that will be set up. And then if yes, you have to refer to their wine list and then tell them the specific wines that you are looking for. And then you also have to indicate whether you want soda pitchers, alcoholic punch, non-alcoholic punch. Do you want a cash bar, a tap bar, or you don't want a bar at all, right? Then they go on to ask you about the linens, because it seems this catering company also provides the linens and napkins for the table. And then they also ask you whether you will come in to decorate yourself or they will decorate it. And then they ask you if there will be a cake table, a gift table, or a podium, which will all have to require decorations. And then since they are handling decor, they also ask you about whether or not you want lamps on the table, so you are bringing your own centerpiece. And they also ask you about music. It seems it's an all-service company, so they ask you about music, whether you want radio music or you are bringing your own CDs, or you need a DJ, or there'll be no music at all, right? And then they have their own clauses. For instance, they said, please note that the use of confetti for decorating is not permitted, and the meal packages are available only as stated. You cannot make any substitutions unless you make prior arrangements with the chef. And then they're also telling you that additional fees may be charged for all your special requests. So this is one of the things we were talking about in our previous discussion about ironclad contracts. You need to be able to make sure that the contract makes room for you to protect yourself and then to also protect your client, right? And in the end, after all these things, you hereby agree to all the terms, and then you are aware that all the deposits are non-refundable, another ironclad clause. And then you sign to it, and then you state the amount you deposited and the date you made the deposit. And then there's another clause here: a non-refundable deposit of $200 is required to reserve the date and time, right? Thank you for choosing. So it seems it's an in-house catering venue, because it's a restaurant. They offer everything from the venue to the food to the beverage to the setup and decoration. And then they have this small clause at the bottom about the tax that will be charging, and then the gratuity, and the fact that the prices are subject to change, right? So this is an ironclad contract that they are making sure they are protecting themselves in the event of any unforeseen circumstances that may affect the quality of the events that they provide. Because we know customers are notorious for changing their minds at the last minute and then disagreeing to things that they have previously agreed to. Now let's look at another type of contract. This is similar to the one that we had, but it is not as detailed, right? So they don't ask you to provide too many options. They ask you to just provide a few options, but then they tell you a lot of the things that they will give you and the things that they will not give you. So you give your name, the organization you are working with, perhaps the telephone number, the email address, the type of event you are having, the date it is, the arrival time, the time that you want to have your dinner or your lunch, and then the departure time when you will be leaving, then the estimated number of guests. Then they proceed to tell you all their terms and conditions, including their general information and policies, their guarantee policy. With regards to the guarantee, they said, please keep us aware of any changes in the event attendance, whether it means attrition, right, or guests of or increase in the numbers, right? So the final guarantee is given 48 hours prior to the event and will be the minimum number you will be charged for. So that means that the number that you confirm 48 hours to the event is what you will be charged for. So even if more people come, they are not responsible for the more people that come, or however it turns out. What you paid for is what you will get, right? They also talk about payment and retainer fees, right? They talk about the fact that there's a 20% retainer fee on all events, and payment is full in due no later than 48 hours prior to the event. So the guarantee should be 48 hours, and then when you are making the guarantee, you pay for everything. You either have to pay by cash, check, or using your card. And then they also have a policy about cancellations, right? If a client cancels a contracted food and beverage event, the caterer will retain the retainer fee as liquidated damages, right? And then they are saying also that if the date can be rescheduled by another client, a refund may be permitted in the event that someone schedules the date that you cancel. And the deposit may also be applied to future events if you schedule it within 1 calendar year from the original contract date, among other things. So you realize that the contracts differ depending on historical events and the experiences of whoever the vendor is and how it has impacted their way of doing business. So you will see another vendor who may not have such an ironclad contract. However, depending on the nature of the activities of the vendor and their experiences, they will design the contract to suit themselves and what will make them comfortable and make them feel protected going into the contract with the client. Please, I hope that makes sense.
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
doctor.
So let's go ahead to talk about the nature of food and beverage at events. Now, factors that the event professional must consider. Sorry, please a moment. Let me fix this. Okay. All right. Okay. So factors that the event professional must consider when it comes to the nature of food and beverage at events include: one, the number of people. Like we said, you always have to give a guarantee to whoever the vendor is to make sure that they can adequately prepare for the number of people that you are expecting. And like we saw from a lot of the contracts, you have to be able to let them know the refreshment times and when the food and beverage should be served during the event. So is food and beverage going to be served at one point in time during the event, or is going to be continuous provision throughout the event? Most of the time, food is served at one specific time for most events. However, beverage consumption is provided for throughout the event. So depending on the nature of the event, you have to be able to tell the vendor the nature of consumption of the food and beverage during the event, whether it is continuous or at a specific time. And you also, most importantly, have to let the vendor know the budget that you are working with. Like we established in our discussion a few minutes ago, you have to be able to talk about how much you are willing to spend, and then the vendor will also tell you the packages that they have and what they can do for you within the money that you have to spend. And then most importantly, which a lot of Ghanaian vendors I feel sometimes ignore, is the attendees themselves. And a lot of Ghanaian food vendors especially are insensitive towards the type of people who are attending events. And I'm a classic member of this group, and I'll explain to you soon why. Now, before we go deep into that, let's talk about the nature of food specifically at events. Now, most events deal with buffets. These days, you rarely go to an event and see them sharing takeaway packs, unless the budget for the event is very low. But almost all events deal with buffets these days. And there are two main types of buffets you will find at an event when it comes to food. So as an event professional, you have an option between two types of buffets, whether to choose a finger buffet, where individuals normally stand around those long cocktail tables. So there are no chairs at the event, and they serve only finger foods. So finger foods like the quiches and the donuts and the pieces of chicken and sausage and the, what do they call it? There's a name for it. This was the name for that, deviled eggs. Yes, those little finger foods. They serve them around those cocktail tables, and they usually don't provide chairs. So that is what we call a finger buffet. And then we have the fork buffet, where there are chairs and tables and a long spread of different types of food, and guests normally sit and eat. And we have different types of food, not just the finger foods. You can have the finger food as well as hot and cold foods, including the cooked foods. the chickens, the rices. In Ghana here, we have the yams, the food, the ampesi, the banku, everything. Those ones form part of the folk buffet. Now, lower cost buffet food items such as salads and breads are encouraged to be placed at the starting point of the buffet table, so that by the time they get to the heavier dishes, which usually cost more money to prepare, they'll be full on the salads and the breads before they get to the heavier foods. That is the recommendation that they are making with regards to setting out a buffet. But in Ghana here, I think they set out the buffet using only the heavy fork foods. The finger foods are usually sent around table by table. True or false?
True.
Yeah. So they do not put the finger foods.
And also, yeah, the salad and the bread, they are like first course meals at times.
So yes, so it's a bit different from our setting.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I remember a colleague of mine got married some years back, and her wedding reception was a finger buffet. There were no chairs, just cocktail tables and canopies. And they insulted her for 1 year straight.
Oh, madam, I will do the same. I attended one last. I never like it. Oh, people are expecting them to stand.
What if that is what they could afford?
Oh, madam, that one, they're not organizing it. Let us go home after.
Oh.
So are you there for the food or you
Exactly, I was about to ask. Are you there for
Madam,
the food?
our problem is,
madam, I'm a Ghanaian lady. I'm there for all of them.
when they are telling these things, they just want to go and, eat.
Yes.
That is their mindset behind all this. Eat. Food, sit down and
It's very, very important. You know, traditionally, the reason why they cook is that at least that is a witness, it's a sign of I'm a witness. I was there. Do you get it?
But did you go and see with your eyes? You didn't go and see with your mouth.
Oh, madam, I'll forget to.
they'll give you some.
You forget the food. Joanne, you forget the food.
I won't forget the food, but I'll forget even the venue class. So please, it's important.
So, like we are saying, the food is very important to some people. And that brings me to a very important aspect of food planning for events, and that is menu composition. In Ghana here, most of the events that we attend have a specific menu composition. If it's not jollof, it's spaghetti rice or curry rice. Fried rice.
Wachi.
And then if you're lucky, you see some locals like banku and tilapia.
Abolo, we have abolo too.
Then in the extreme case, people have money to split. You see some fufu, and then some and soup, goat light soup. Good. And then palm nut soup. So the menu is set, right? And most of the menus do not cater to all the needs of every attendee at the event. I have gone to events where they had so much food on the table, but I was not able to eat even one thing that they had because of the composition of the menu. And there's a tendency towards, like I said, having a standardized format where you see the same type of food in every buffet at every event that you attend, such that the caterer does not even go into detail as to even the constituents of the ingredients that they use to prepare the food. And this is very inappropriate for certain types of attendees who are restricted as to the kind of foods that they can consume. So when it comes to menu planning, as event professionals, you need to make sure that you hold the caterer accountable such that they do not standardize, but they take into consideration the different demographics of the attendees that are coming for the event. So they can look at things like the age of the attendees. Would there be children there? Would there be older people there? The gender of the attendees, will they be more men or more women? The religion of the attendees. These days, Muslims and Jews have specific diets that they stick to. The Muslims will always want to do the halal, and the Jews will want to do the kosher thing. So you have to make sure that the menu is tailored to all these different kinds of people. Some people also have dietary restrictions. I, for instance, don't eat nuts. I don't take dairy. So any food that has nut or nut oil in it is a problem for me. Because of that, when I go to events, I always like to smell the aroma of the food to see if I can smell nut oil anywhere. Meanwhile, the caterer could have just made it easy for me by providing the menu and the ingredients, perhaps the possible allergens that are in the ingredients. I doubt if some of the caterers who even say they are caterers know what allergens are. True or false? Joan, do you know the allergens? Joan, do you know what the allergens are?
No, madam. But if I should,
common types of food allergies.
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
And you know what causes them?
Yeah, sometimes.
Good. And all these people are in our midst. But let me ask you an honest question. Please give me an honest answer. Do you take this into consideration when you are preparing your food?
No.
Yeah, madam, some of us, we consider that at least knowing a little of them, we do that. Okay. Like example, you made the example of the religion. Yeah. You know, nowadays people are patronizing pork a lot. So occasions they're like, oh, pork show and that kind of thing. So if it happens that the customer requests for maybe a pork show, we try to separate that table. It's very, very far because it's a delicacy. It's not everybody who likes the pork. So people even knowing that pork is on the table, they'll even think that you'll be using the same spoon to serve, let's say the same food tank to hold the pork, or you'll be using it to hold the beef again. So when you have even shrimps, people are very much allergic to shrimp, seafood, those things. So when you know that you have this special delicacy, you have to create a table or separate it from the normal rice that you know everybody is okay with it. So sometimes we are particular about this, and also you make room for vegetarian. You know, somebody will come, oh, did you mix the salad with cream? Oh, I don't like it.
Good.
Yeah, so when I see people serving at the buffet and they have mixed the salad with cream, then I said, what if somebody comes and the person is not interested in cream? What will you serve? So people need to make that room. Oh, we have salad without cream. Oh, we have this, we have that. So at least you can't cater for everything, but at least the little minor ones, you should be able to sort them out.
Good.
Thank you, madam.
Good. And as an event professional, in fact, it's the duty of the event professional to know the kinds of people who are attending their events and obtain beforehand which ones have specific allergies, and then inform the vendor or the caterer accordingly.
Yeah.
So that they can cater for all these things that Joanne is talking about, because Joanne can do what she can on her part. But if as the event professional, you don't give her enough information to work with, it should be very difficult for her to do her job. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, doctor.
Yes,
please. Important, right? So, like I said, we have to take care of the different people who are coming for the event, especially those who have special diets, those with allergic reactions, the diabetics, the high cholesterol people, the lactose intolerant people, the high BP people. All these people have to be catered for. And Joanne, these are the 8 common food allergies.
Yes.
So we have the dairy allergy, the egg allergy, peanut allergy, tree nut allergy, seafood allergy, soy allergy, wheat allergy, and palm allergy. Yes. Right? So as a caterer, now Momo, did you know about these things? Now Momo, you say you're a caterer too. Did you know this? Now Momo.
Yes, doc. Sorry. Yes, I knew about them, but I don't take it into consideration like that.
I hope you have repented from today.
Yes, because I feel like there's a lot of variety. So if you can't eat one thing, you eat another.
Which is not even the case. There could be a lot of variety, but perhaps the ingredients that is causing the allergies in all of them.
Okay, yeah.
You see, like for instance, for me, that I have peanut allergy. If there's peanut oil that has been used to fry the chicken and the meat, that means that I'm out of all the things that have been fried using that oil.
Yeah.
So it's very important for event professionals to take this into consideration and hold the caterers accountable, right? And also in preparing the buffet, like Joanne mentioned, and we have all agreed, the foods have to be varied. Add some protein foods, add some carbohydrates, add some fats, do a mixture. Don't put only carbs on the table, right? In Ghana here, you mainly see carbs and protein. So bread, fufu, rice, banku. Then you see the chicken and goat meat.
Fish.
It's true, oh?
Yeah, chicken, fish.
Yeah.
Madam.
Then fish. That's all. Yes.
Madam.
Yes. Yes, please.
But I believe strongly that it's what the person asks for. For I'm
Oh,
here listening
part of
to.
what the caterer recommends. So they'll tell you this is gold package, and the gold package you get chicken, fish.
Yes, madam.
Yes.
Okay, so madam, I have packages ranging from 85 Ghana cedis per head to about 170.
Okay.
You understand? And
Yes.
the varieties are there, the starters, the main course, the desserts, and all are there. So you flip through. It's more like your power, the money you have, the cash, yes. So if maybe definitely if 85 is the list, it means that you're not going to have a lot of varieties in there.
Definitely.
Yes, so it depends on what the person. Sometimes they also customize their own thing. They choose from here, they choose from there, and most of the people, as Joan said, they want cheap things. And madam, we are here to make profit. So if chicken will do, why not? If chicken will be cheaper for me to make profit, I mean a little something on it, why not? So sometimes that's what happened. Most of the caterers, we know about the Alfredo pasta, we know about the lasagna, we have ideas, but yes, madam, yeah. So
Bless.
yes,
What I think we are talking about is trying to like catering for people's need, not necessarily the pricing aspect or the kind of yes.
No,
We are like
no. I was referring to what madam was saying.
Yes. Like
That you see
I'm also
couple.
Okay, let Bless finish, then you come in.
Okay.
Joanna, I didn't get that. I'm listening, please.
Okay, John, go ahead.
I was saying that, in fact, we were talking about the allergy aspect where people try to.
No, I heard that. But when madam was saying that.
So I moved on and I started talking about proteins and carbs and then fat and having a good blend of all of them.
Okay. Yeah.
I have serious allergies myself. If you ask Pat, I keep telling her I have serious allergies. So for that, I know. That is why I didn't make any comment about it. Yeah. But when she moved on, that is where. Auntie Joan, you get me?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Awesome. So that brings us to the end of the food section. Now let's come to beverage planning. So when it comes to beverage planning, there are usually two options. It's either at the event you have a paid bar or a cash bar. Cash bars are very unpopular in Ghana because of the nature of our culture. The moment a Ghanaian goes to an event and sees a cash bar, they see it that the event organizer is not being hospitable and it's not treating them well. So if you will confirm, most events in Ghana here, in fact, all events that we attend have paid bars where the client or the one who is organizing the event has arranged for and paid for all the drinks that they will be consuming at the event. So the person attending does not have to pay anything for drinks. True or false?
Sure, doctor.
So
you invited me.
Cash bar at any Ghanaian event because culturally we do not. It's not part of our culture to make people pay for drinks when they come to events, unless the person attends an independent event, like they go to a fair or they go to a play or concert or something, and they decide to buy something to refresh themselves. So, but in the event that you have, you are organizing an event and it's a cash bar, you have to inform the people that, okay, it is a cash bar or it is a paid bar. And sometimes for the paid bar too, there's a limit as to how much the organizer will pay for. So even though the organizer is paying for drinks, like Mercedes mentioned, with the event that she was contracted to refresh, she provided I think, is it 2 servings or 3 servings? Mercedes, how many servings was it per person for the event?
It was 1.
1, okay. So the event organizer can say, I'm only paying for 1 serving.
1.
After that, any extra serving you decide to go for, you have to pay by yourself. And that is also done. right? So these are the two main kinds of bars that we can find at an event. And generally, when you go to an event, there are two types of beverages that you find: alcoholic and neutral beverages. Depending on who the organizer of the event is, he may have a mixture of alcoholic and neutral beverages or just neutral beverages. For me, all the events that I organize for myself and my family are neutral beverage events. You will never find a drop of alcohol at any event because I don't consume it. My family members don't consume it, and I don't encourage other people to consume it. So if you come to my event, you will not find an alcoholic beverage. But for some people, for the purposes of hospitality and then making every attendee feel comfortable, they like to provide a blend of alcoholic and neutral beverages. So alcoholic beverages are the ones that contain alcohol that we know, like the hard liquor and the distilled beverages, the scotches, tequila, vodka, brandy. And then when we come to our local terms, we have the palm wines and all the other local drinks that contain alcohol, including beer, right? Then the neutral beverages, we have the non-alcoholic wines and non-alcoholic beers and the juices and then the tea, coffee, and then the sodas. Most of the time when you go to corporate events and conferences and branches, for instance, you realize that they serve more of neutral beverages than they do alcoholic beverages. If at all they would do so, they do it in the after hours of the event, right? So usually you have to plan for how many beverages you will provide for each attendee at the event. The consumption is usually an average of 3 drinks per person during a normal 2-hour reception. But like Mercedes said, the one she was contracted to do was 1 serving per person. So again, it depends on the one who is organizing the event and what their needs are, right? However, currently...
Okay, Doc.
Yes, Mercedes.
Okay, so because ours is, should I say, locals and then the juices, most of the functions that we've catered for, they have these other drinks, let's say the sodas, the alcoholic beverages like the beers, the Guinnesses, there are other things there. So that's why most of the time it's a 1 serving per, but they have other drinks. Okay. So it's just more of like a compliment sort of, just to add on.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for bringing that up. So as event professionals, you need to know the kind of event you're organizing. If the variety is expected, you have to cater for it. And like she said, the local drinks is a more specialized area. So they needed someone to come in with that expertise. However, they provided the other drinks on their own on the side as well, so that the attendees could have that variety. And I'm sure all that together contributed to the success of the event. Now, it is important for us as event professionals to understand the trends in the food and beverage industry across the globe. And there are 5 main trends that are happening in food and beverage all over the world now. The first one is the fact that alternative diets have become mainstream. A lot of people are on all these weird diets. They have the keto diets, the vegetarians, the pescatarians. Please, who knows who a pescatarian is? Does anyone know who a pescatarian is?
No, Doc.
No.
Okay, so pescatarians are people who only eat seafood and fish.
Pescatarian, seafood and fish.
Yeah, so they won't eat chicken. They will not eat meat. They only eat fish and seafood. So they are pescatarian. And you realize that all these diets are being consumed by even people in Ghana. So there are pescatarians in Ghana. There are vegetarians here. The keto people too are here. The kosher people too are here. So all these are alternative diets that have now become mainstream. It's normal now to have people like this attending events. So as an event professional, you need to make sure that all these alternative diets are catered for somehow in the food and beverage that you're putting out, so that they can also have something to eat and drink when they attend your event. Also, there's a trend towards healthy ingredients taking the spotlight, meaning that it's now no longer about how nice the food tastes or how beautiful it is served. It is about how healthy the ingredients that you use to prepare the food are. So people in other parts of the world are now crazy about organic and non-GMO ingredients because they want to make sure that what they are consuming is healthy and will not give them cancer in the long run. So people are really big on healthy ingredients being used to prepare food. And that goes all the way back to the sourcing of the raw materials that they use to prepare the food and the beverage. Because even when it comes to local drinks like palm wine and pito and asana, there are quality and grades. to all these things, depending on where it is sourced and the ingredients that are used. Even the caterers who cook, there are different quality foods that you purchase. True or false?
True.
Yeah.
True.
So they know where to get the quality ingredients. And right now, the industry all over the globe is very big on the healthy nature of the ingredients that are used in all the food and beverages. And now plant-based food items have gone mainstream. Yes.
Doug, you see, I still think that it still comes back to the cash bit. You know, we serve I serve Gihog, and then we serve EcoBank.
Yeah.
And we serve Phoenix Insurance.
Yeah.
And madam, the rice we do the stew base, yes, we do the same thing. But when it comes to the type of rice, we use a different rice for Gihog because they pay less. And then the quality of food we give EcoBank and Phoenix. Sometimes myself, I look at the food, the difference, and I'm like, really, madam, but
your own
yes, madam.
It's not about how much they pay, it's about your level of professionalism.
Oh yes, madam. You see, I've had several meetings with them, with Gihog, telling them, explaining things to them that they should just, you know, I don't want to mention figures. If not, madam, you close the class right now.
Yeah.
So I've had several meetings with them, even giving them samples of the kind of food we serve Phoenix, but hey, madam, they won't listen because I'm trying to maintain. No, my team, we are trying to maintain a certain standard.
Yeah.
You understand? But we still want to, though we want to maintain a certain standard, we still want to also to be able to serve like all kinds of people, but they won't listen.
That's true.
So you are pushed. You understand? Yeah. So you can still use as maybe I'm preparing jollof. I'll still use the ingredients and everything that I use for EcoBank and other places for them. But the rice, I cannot guarantee that.
Yeah. That's totally understandable. Because at this point, it's also about your income. And you can't afford to lose that contract as well. It's very dicey, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Thank you for making that contribution, Bless. It's an eye-opener.
Welcome.
All right. The next trend we can talk about is plant-based food having gone mainstream. And I think it has not reached our part of the world yet, because still in our part of the world, a lot of people continue to eat a lot of meat and fish and chicken. But in other parts of the world, people are focusing on eating plant-based foods because that is supposed to be high antioxidants and be very healthy for the body. So there you find out that in other places, the menu is usually dominated by plant-based foods, to the point where they have even developed plant-based burger meat to substitute the regular meat burger and other plant-based items to replace meat items on the menu. But once again, it's on a case-by-case basis because these kinds of foods are more popular within certain cultures and in certain contexts rather than others. Like I said, in Ghana here, we are still on the meat and chicken and fish trend. So perhaps we will get there, but I don't think it will be that soon. And then next, we can also talk about the cross-cultural fusions having been increased. Right now, we are seeing different kinds of food from different parts of the world all in one menu. So you go to an event and then the food at the event has a representation from Italy, you see some Indian food, you see some Ghanaian food, you see some Nigerian food. So cross-cultural fusions have increased in terms of catering. So it's not just about the continental and the local anymore. The spread has increased and the different kinds of foods that can be added have also multiplied. And finally, people are now very conscious of the nutritional value of the food that they eat. People now just don't eat to get full. They eat thinking about the kind of nutrients that they are getting from the food that they are eating. And dare I say, some people even think about it when it comes to the beverages that they consume. So I know some people who will never take Hennessy or Scotch or gin, but they will drink a lot of palm wine because they believe that palm wine is easier excrete from the body. Mercedes, is it true?
That
you can easily excrete palm wine from the body than perhaps if you drank a scotch or brandy or something.
I've heard people say that, but I don't.
Yeah, perhaps because it is plant-based and a bit more natural.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll believe that.
Yeah. So these are some of the trends that are happening in terms of the food and beverage industry. So as event professionals, you need to take cognizance of this in case you get some contract from a multinational company or you get an international contract and you want to be able to impress. You know that these are the trends that are going on around the world, and you know how to infuse it into your planning for the food and beverage at the event to make sure that you are able to impress your clients. Now, finally, let's look at a few other issues that we need to talk about. Unlike in other parts of the world, in Ghana here, you don't really need a license to consume alcohol or provide alcohol at an event. But in other places, you need a license to be able to provide alcohol and food, or even sell alcohol and food. In Ghana here, I know about the food aspect, where when you're organizing a food and an event and there'll be food vendors, you need a permit from the AMA and some other institutions to certify that the vendors that you are bringing to the event are selling wholesome items and people can buy and consume. But another important thing you also need to consider is the sufficiency of space for food, drink, and equipment storage, as well as the preparation and serving of food at events. Sometimes people organize events at certain venues and they forget that the caterer who is coming will need somewhere to set up. They'll need somewhere to be able to be packing the dirty dishes and plates. One thing that I have abhorred and has always been an eyesore is when you go for an event and the caterer is packing the dishes and washing them right next to the buffet station. Who has seen that thing before? Very, very annoying. It's an eyesore. And that is because they did not take into consideration the fact that we need a separate place for the caterer to be packing these dirty plates and dishes and washing them and storing their equipment so that the food area will be neat, right? So these are things that the event professional must think about when they are choosing a venue. There should be enough space for the food to be displayed neatly and another separate space for the storage of equipment and dirty dishes and then preparation and dishing of the food. Because there are some people, when they see how the food is being dished, they do not even want to eat it anymore. So that's another thing to consider. You also need to think about the accessibility of these areas for the various people to come and set up, as well as the hygiene regulations. In Ghana here, with regard to hygiene, when it comes to events, I think the AMA does their best by giving permits, because once you go to the AMA for permission and they give you a permit, if it's an outdoor event, they can make sure that the cleaners that they have contracted will come and clean the place after the event has taken place. But in the event that the AMA or whatever other regulatory body is not providing that, you, the event professional, have to make sure that hygiene and utilities are well catered for. So if you are having a set of cleaners to be on standby to be cleaning the place, to make sure that all the washrooms are always neat and the food area is always neat, and people who are littering do not litter to the point where it becomes an eyesore for other attendees at the event. You have to put all these measures into place so that hygiene will be assured. You also need to think about the setup, opening, closing, and departure times. Another annoying thing at Ghanaian events is where you go to the event and you're sitting down, you're waiting for the food to come. Please, who has gone through that thing before? Especially you didn't eat before you left home because you budgeted how you are sitting in your stomach for the food, and then you are waiting and nothing is happening. So as an event professional, you really need to time these things. When should the caterers come and start setting up? When is the event starting? When should the food be ready for people to consume? And when should the caterers finally leave the place? In the event that some people get hungry getting to the end of the event. And like I said, cleaning and clearing arrangements always have to be put in place because we are dealing with food and beverage, and all these come down to hygiene when it comes to events. And finally, you need to think about the selection criteria for the catering providers, right? These days, it has become fashionable for people to select different caterers and vendors, even for specific menu items. So for instance, they'll select a general caterer who will provide the main course foods like the banku, not even perhaps the banku. They'll let the caterer come and do the jollof, fried rice, plain rice, salads, and chicken and fish. Then they'll bring some
local dish.
Good. They'll bring some local wayside banku seller who does banku and roasted fish very well to come and set up and serve the banku and roasted tilapia. Then they'll bring the pork experts from, say, the Osu night market to come and set up and serve at the pork station. Then they'll bring the one who will serve the local drinks, like Mercedes will come and do the local drinks. Then Gloria will come. Yes.
The stands too.
Good. You see, so it has become fashionable for people to select different vendors who specialize in different aspects of food and beverage to come and serve at events. But you need to make sure that you have adequate funds to pay for all these people, right? And you have enough space to accommodate all these people, because the more vendors you bring in, the more space you will need for all of them to be able to set up their stalls and be able to provide whatever service you have brought them in to provide. So these are some of the additional issues we need to consider when it comes to food and beverage planning for events. And that brings us to the end of our lecture. In fact, I had a great time today. I don't know if anyone has anything they want to add before we sign off.
Yes, for the time for the setup, I think that's the slide before this one. We talked about the time for setting up, leaving, opening, closing.
Yeah.
Yes, I've realized that I think for most functions that I've attended, I've realized that the caterers always almost don't come early.
That's true.
I really wish to find out from my sisters here, Patricia, or is it Joanne and then Bless?
Yes.
If maybe there's something that because I don't know, but that's one thing I've realized. Most of the time, the food they don't come early.
It's true.
No, what happens is that you know what happens is that there is, mise en place. In catering, we call something mise en place. Some people fail to do advanced preparation. And it means you'll be assuming you'll be serving fried rice and you'll be using shito. Me, I've already prepared my shito a week ago because shito is something. No, because
don't mind me. I'm just teasing you. Don't mind.
I know. So anyway, if I say a week ago, it doesn't necessarily mean like, let's say 7 days ago.
I know.
Like 2-3 days.
It has been prepared long time ago. And if I know I'll be using a disposable spoon, if I'm not able to get the one that has already been packaged, and I know I'll be wrapping the tissue around the spoon, I have already done that. I'll give it to the girls. They have already done that a week ago. So you do a lot of the advanced preparations so that if the day is just approaching or if the day has finally come, what you do is just cook and that's all. But you now see people trying to clean plates, clean glasses and do all those things. Those things should have been done at least 3 days.
There is one thing about people who, caterers.
Yeah.
They want to do everything. When somebody says, I have a wedding and I want you to cook for me, they will take the rice dishes, they will take the fufu banku.
No. Pat, let me come in. The fact that we take it doesn't mean that we don't outsource some of the things.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I can take it, but I can outsource.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. I cannot do, when the banku is plenty, I cannot do it. So I'll call, though I've taken the banku, I'll call somebody who I know can do the banku very well. I'll pay the person to do the banku, but I will be bringing the banku to you. Do you understand? Yeah. Sometimes you have desserts like tiger nuts. Maybe I cannot prepare the tiger nut. Though you've put in there that the dessert is tiger nut, you outsource it. So the fact that we take everything doesn't mean that we do everything.
Bless, I get you, but some people don't also coordinate.
Yes.
They don't. After giving the other things out, they don't
follow up.
They don't follow up. They just give it and leave.
Leave it.
Bring the soup and the banku will be somewhere coming.
coming. Yes, yes.
I mean,
Right.
but
So
when you
Coordination.
give,
Oh, but you
also
see,
causes the lateness at times in the
when I was trying to explain earlier, when I was trying to explain this EcoBank thing, Madam was saying, you see, so it depends on you, the kind of class you want, the kind of service you want to give out. You understand? So the next time, if you do that, you don't follow up, and Banku is coming from east, soup is coming from west. The next time, who is going to recommend you?
True.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you believe that on the first part, if you remember, on the first, around 11, when we got to EcoBank, do you know what they told me? They said we are in too early. Do you understand?
wow.
Yes. They said we are in too early. Yesterday
But
was the same.
it's early.
I
Yours
mean,
is
sorry.
12:30.
Empacho.
I want to call it 11, 11 the other.
Felicia.
Is it brunch?
This is brunch. This is brunch.
Yo, Matic.
Oh no, but it's good. It's good.
Do you
Bless. I
understand?
think we'll talk
Because
after. Anyway.
Yeah. That's very, very enlightening.
Madam, I think there is something that as event planners or as upcoming event planners we should learn.
Hey, you're not event planners, you are event professional all around.
Professional.
All around.
You know, Madam, some people they do everything. They do decoration, they do the catering, they do this drink stuffs, you know, everything. So at the end of the day, you take too many things, and you know you have to go and check on the decoration. You have to go and show the drinks and other things. So at the time we allocate certain. That's what, in fact, now is very common. The local drinks, caterer, somebody who will do this. I think it is the best. It's very good, and you know, at the end of the day, it makes the thing so, nice. Everything is in place and it's in order.
That's true. That's true. So it was a very awesome discussion. Thank you, Mercedes, for that question. I think now you have some clarity on why the food delays.
Yes, please.